Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You are welcome to the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland for this third game of the second weekend of the Guinness Six Nations. And of course, we had a terrific afternoon yesterday. I suppose England, it was straightforward enough against Italy, but Scotland and Wales, an absolute belter in Murrayfield yesterday. Wales winning it by 25 points to 24. And that all means that the table looks like this on this Sunday afternoon. Wales, surprising for many, leading the way with 9 points. England follow. France and Ireland, of course, will have an impact on that table by the close of business this afternoon. So that's what it's all about, the Guinness Six Nations trophy, and we await the arrival of two teams who at the start of this competition very much had designs on winning it. France still on course. Ireland, well, they have a job of work to do, having been beaten in Cardiff last week by 21 points to 16. And while that was happening, France were beating Italy convincingly by 50 points to 10, and it wasn't so much the scoreline but the manner of the performance that impressed so many once again about France. They really are a team going in the right direction as they prepare for their World Cup a number of years away still, but right now they are a phenomenal unit. They face Ireland, of course, this afternoon, then on to meet Scotland, England and Wales. So much more for them to do, but they have started oh so well. For Ireland, well, it's a big ask today. Missing some key players. No Jonathan Sexton, no Conor Murray. The last time Ireland started a Six Nations match without either of those players was back in 2011. Today it's Jamison Gibson-Park and Billy Burns who will start in a 9 and 10 shirts. And for France, well, Jalabert, as he walks through picture there, so key for them at 10. But the Petit General, Antoine Dupont, it's been all about that man for the last couple of weeks, and indeed for the last number of months. Pound for pound, for many, the best player in world rugby right now. Fabien Galthié makes his way to the coach's box. Of course, 64 times capped himself for France as Ireland make their way with their new captain, Ian Henderson, at the helm today. Of course, no Sexton, who is the captain. James Ryan, his second row partner, would be next in line, but no James Ryan either. And today Ian Henderson, on the day of his 60th international cap, is the captain of Ireland. And so much for him to do today, to lead by example, and of course to secure good ball from the line out, a line out that's now been run by former Ireland second row Paul O'Connell, who's taken over the duties as the forwards coach. There's Gary Ringrose. If Ireland going to unlock a French defence, Ringrose will surely be key. And Andy Farrell, well, it might be a bit premature to say he's a coach on the brink, but he's definitely a coach under pressure. It's the 100th meeting of these sides in capped internationals, and we look forward to it unfolding. But before we start, we will of course pause for a moment. The anthems to come in a couple of moments, but first it's Rugby Against Racism, a moment and a pause at the Aviva Stadium.
Racism and any form of discrimination is not acceptable in rugby, in sport.
It's a statement worth reiterating. Racism not acceptable in rugby, in sport, or the world we live in.
And the core values of our game. Rugby, united against racism.
Shrill blast of the whistle from our referee Luke Pearce ends that moment of reflection, and we will now pause for the anthems. There we have it. The preliminaries almost done. Let's take a final check on the sides. And we'll start with Ireland. Cian Healy in that front row makes his 106th international appearance. He goes 5th on the all-time list. Tadhg Beirne in that second row alongside the captain Ian Henderson. Rhys Ruddock makes his first start in the Six Nations on the day of his 27th international cap. Gibson, Park and Burns trusted with the 9 and 10 shirt by Andy Farrell today. Henshaw and Ringrose very competent and capable in the midfield. James Lowe, Hugo Keenan and Keith Earls, who probably didn't have his best game in an Irish shirt, are in that back three. So there's a look at the French side. It's a French side that have 2 changes from the side that won last week in Italy. In the number 6 shirt, Gelonche comes in to the game. Aldrit and Olivon in that back row alongside him. And then Damien Penaud in the number 14 shirt on the right wing takes over, maybe surprisingly, from Teddy Thomas, who is on the French bench, but all about Dupont and Jalabert, you would think, at 9 and 10 for France. And a look at the replacements benches, and you'll see the name of Teddy Thomas there. Jordan Lorimer in the 23 shirt for Ireland, and of course Tadhg Furlong making his way back into international rugby wearing number 18. Alongside me, Tom May, former England international. Your thoughts on this one, sir?
Cannot wait to see Gibson Park and Billy Burns get an opportunity. Their first Six Nations starts. They'll want to be playing with tempo and pace. And conditions might play a part in that, we're yet to see. But right now, there may not be a more exciting team in world rugby than this French outfit. They've been unleashed by Fabien Galtier, and we're seeing what is no doubt going to be the core of this French team for years to come.
And that man is the key of the core. Antoine Dupont is 29th international cap, just 24 years of age. Our referee today is Luke Pearce of England. The very experienced Wayne Barnes runs one line, Christoph Ridley the other, and Tom Foley, also of the RFU, is our television match official.
You're on the clock as well, buddy, okay? France?
So we are set to go at the Aviva Stadium. It's the final game of the second weekend of the Guinness Six Nations, and it's Ireland who get us underway, and it's an Irish side you feel that will want to settle and settle quickly before France can sow any seeds of doubt. And it is a French side that is very, very capable of doing that if Ireland don't hit their marks early and they get up quickly and block down the first kick. But in doing so, it still comes back on the French side, and there was a moment there where that Irish defence was a little bit fractured, but they found a way of organising themselves to stop France making any real ground. And back there is Billy Burns, and he will get that clearing kick in. And a lot said, Tom May, about Billy Burns last week. That error at the end, and you've played in the game, making an error as obvious as that, it's a real confidence shatterer, isn't it?
Well, it's probably one of those skills as well that everyone just takes for granted. You're expected to hit your point. Listen, every player makes them. It's how you bounce back from them, no doubt.
Who's receiver?
You know, he would have learned a lot from his brother, who's experienced similar moments like that.
Marchand to the French line-out, and Ireland did a good job last week of robbing Welsh ball at the line-out, and they've started that way against France, winning the first throw into the line-out, and it's flung high into the air, and Ringrose and Dulin went after that, and the referee has said advantage being played to France. I think it was a knock-on from the hand of Ringrose, but a really good chase of the kick by Ireland. And France find themselves back in the 22, and that's twice in the opening minute and a half that Ireland have put France under a bit of pressure with the kick. Here's Billy Burns, and it goes to James Lowe. And of course, Lowe in his debut against Wales in the Autumn Nations Cup, the Leinster winger. Burns, Ringrose, and Ireland operating at a decent tempo and with good accuracy in these opening moments. Gibson Park almost got the pass away. Now, was
just a knock-on for me?
Well, there's the answer to the question. Villiers, was it a deliberate knock-on or an accidental one?
No comment. I don't understand it. There's too many that are very similar with hugely differing outcomes. Saw one yesterday, didn't we? Courtney Lawes, I think,
but didn't. So just a knock-on.
Similar. But you know, it's really interesting to see how the Irish, they have to try and pressurise this French team. They have to be after them and on top of them all afternoon.
Weather this afternoon, sunshine and showers with a lot of rain in Dublin all day after a very cold week, not just here but throughout most of Europe. But the temperature has gone up, as you can see. There's a good bit of wind around, but as far as the conditions go, by comparison to what they might have been, they're not bad at all.
No, especially compared to this morning. That may well have played into the Irish hands.
Fine.
As it is. Fairly dry.
Set.
Yeah, but definitely wet underfoot.
Stay in, please.
First scrum
Rest
of the
it out.
afternoon, and it's a solid one from Ireland. And Keith Earls comes off his wing and tries to run over Jalibert. He out half did well to hold him up. Tyke Byrne was really standout for Ireland last week. Most carries at 21, most rucks hit, most tackles as well. Is getting a try, watched and dealt with by Villiers, and he takes the mark and then moves into contact. Referee happy that's okay. Henshaw up quickly to make the tackle on Cyril Baille.
Kick was just slightly too long from Jamison Gibson Park, wasn't it? Who would have wanted the winger Villiers to be catching that just outside his 22?
Dupont swings a leg at it and finds his opposite number, Gibson Park.
Ireland, stop!
That one is gone into the midfield, and Ireland need to get their defensive line right for a moment. Looks like there might be some room on the outside. And we'll play a little bit of kick tennis.
Too comfortable. Ireland with three at the backfield all the time, rotating those players.
Bryce Dulin flings the pass out to Mathieu Jalibert, and Gibson Park is back there again. James Lowe offers
Inside,
himself.
lads.
Now, he has a big boot, and he's wound this one up.
And he's absolutely nailed it.
I mean, Dulin thought about a quick one, and thought better of it.
And it's a brilliant kick from James Lowe. You can see, though, the Irish just want to get that kick chase set, don't they? They're getting one or two chases right after the ball, and then the line set in behind. They cannot afford to give this French team
Billy, hold them down,
a sniff
okay?
of space.
Well, we've seen it so often with Bryce Dulin. We saw it last week in Rome. If you give the French fullback any sort of room, he will absolutely annihilate you in the broken field. That's another good line-out win for Ireland on French ball. That's 2 from 2 against France with the throw into the line-out. Gibson Park will dig it out, and Rhys Ruddock is skipped, and Robbie Henshaw is asked to carry. Gibson Park again for Tyke Byrne. Tackle on the gain line from a gang of 2 or 3, including Cyril Baille.
Everybody in front, stop Ireland!
Burns back in the pocket, launches it up in the air, and that's a competition, and who's it going to fall for? It's going to fall for Gary Ringrose, and Ringrose there, and the referee happy to let play continue. Here's Henderson, the captain, runs into a big tackle. Aldridge, one of the 2 to make it. Burns back on the angle. He started comfortably enough as Billy Burns. His confidence will have been done no end of good by the opening 5.5 minutes for Ireland so far. Ireland have owned the ball. Here's Ringrose. Can they get some points to start them on their way? After it goes Olivon, but he's shoved off it, and Henshaw just about gets away from Dupont. And it's there for Gibson Park once more. CJ Stander. He takes on the physical, doesn't he always? Sets Ireland up again. Burns, Keenan, Ringrose, and it just didn't go to hand, and it breaks, and it could fall for Ficou just as it looked like it might bounce up from it. Gets away from Gael Ficou.
1, then 2.
And Ireland, after all the good work, a basic error, and a basic error that could have gone horribly wrong had Ficou not spilled it forward.
Yeah, the accuracy in those areas, if there's a lack of accuracy, it can be really exposed, especially by that French backline. Gael Ficou, well, that's the bounce of a rugby ball, isn't it? The most annoying thing on the planet. Anyway, I think Ireland looking pretty comfortable on the ball. You're talking about Billy Burns.
Okay.
Listen, last week that was a closed skill, wasn't it? It's an individual skill. A kick to touch. He can take that out of his game. Actually, his general game last week I thought was pretty good. He'll no doubt have bounced back during this week. Everyone will give him a slap on the backside. Get your head up. Move on.
Crouch! Fine. Set.
Dupont feeds the French scrum. It's at the feet of Gregory Aldridge. Dupont told to play it by the referee, which he does, and Jalibert will go to his back line. Kick through. Hugo Keenan comes across for that one, continues to roll away, and it was a really good kick. I think it was Bryce Dulin who threaded that through the onrushing Irish defence and gives France a foothold in Irish territory, albeit with a throw into the line-out for Ireland.
Well, they knew exactly what they wanted to do there, didn't they? back line very flat in the way it was set up.
France,
Using
space,
that left
Shank,
foot of
space.
Bryce Dulac. At 30, the oldest in the back line. Huge
Fellas,
amount of
look
pace,
at them, don't
picks
look at me.
amazing angles.
Rest Taylor.
Ireland throw to the line out, and it's up high for Tyg Byrne to
In
claim.
5, line over.
Herring at the back of
It's obviously a maul.
maul, and Rhys Ruddock doing a really good job of guiding. And there's a collective shout of glee from Ireland as they win the
Andre.
penalty. That was a good exit.
That was a good exit. Getting a free shot. Here we go. Close skill. Billy Burns, what have you learned from last week? Make touch. That's exactly it. Learnt from it. One area that Andy Farrell would really want to try and take the game to the French up front.
Keep an eye on number 1, Cyril Bay. There he is. Put the head in at the side,
Let's
engage
take
with that
Lumet,
maul, and that's where the
Lumet.
penalty came from. Herring finds Ruddock under pressure from Olivon, but
Advantage.
did well. And
Advantage.
Advantage being played, says the referee. It was dropped in there, and then
This guy was entitled to the ball, then holding on.
Ireland get pinged for holding on. And
Knocked on, and then this guy is holding on.
the penalty to France. Is this within range? It is.
Post goal.
And Olivon points to the posts and an opening opportunity for points on the afternoon.
Yeah, disappointing for the Irish. Just a bit sloppy as they came down to try and set up that catch and drive. Ball lost. And then holding on provides Matthew Jalibert, or Jelibert, as Andy Farrell called him before the game.
Yes, Matthew Jalibert.
I think I prefer that.
So then Jalibert, first opportunity of the afternoon for points for either side as we click on to the 10-minute mark. Giving that a good thump. And it's left and wide. It wasn't a gimme, but I think you would have expected it.
Yeah, be disappointed. Just hooked it
10,
slightly.
get them behind you,
didn't
plece. France.
He had to put a little bit of extra
That's all
power
Ireland.
into that one and sacrifice the accuracy. Let off for Ireland. Burns pops this one purposely in front of Villiers, and then it's Aldrit. Good run from the number 8. Punched a decent hole. And then the pass to Hawass. France, they really haven't had an opportunity
No,
with ball
you're
in
pulling
hand
back,
in the
no
opening
offense.
10 minutes. But now they do, and it's gone forward there. It was the new man, Gelon, who tried to
Don't
pop
look
it
for the
off,
off-feet
and it
if
went
you're
forward.
stepping back off, okay?
you? Well, you can hear the enthusiasm in that
No,
Irish
but-
defence.
Knock on.
They
Oliver.
are going to be giving themselves the big up every time they can force this French team into making a mistake.
And all the action in
Okay,
the
let's
opening,
bang up,
what,
let's go.
11 and a half minutes has been
Allez, s'il vous plaît.
in the French half. In Ireland,
left.
well, you set out your stall, and that's the sort of thing that you have as an ambition, but to deliver it, that'll do the confidence the world of good.
Yeah, and I think, listen, there's a couple of areas that Andy Farrell will really try and test this French team. They haven't
Wait for
really
9.
been put under pressure, have they,
Crouch.
so far in this tournament? Well, let's try and find how they deal with being put in their own
Bind.
half. How are they going to try and play out? Are they going to stick with plan A all game?
Set.
Or have they got something else up their sleeve?
Rock solid scrum again, and the penalty then comes.
Number 1.
And it against Cyril Bay for dragging it down. The Toulouse prop is the one who's penalised.
There's a couple of penalties against him.
Yeah, one from inside of the maul, and now one at the scrum. Decent kick out of hand for Billy Burns on the platform of the line out for Ireland. You can see it on this near side, and the referee was in no doubt.
It was right in front of him, was it? That left elbow just twisting inwards.
Irish line out. claimed by Henderson, and the ball makes its way into midfield, where Stander is hit by LaRue. Gibson Park sets Ireland going again. Decent tempo from Ireland. Van der Fleer had to readjust to claim that one. Gibson Park screaming at the referee, want a quick ball. Billy Burns sort of pirouettes out of the tackle of Jalabert. Van der Fleer again. Olivon.
No, you're pulling back.
Puts him
Same
down.
as theirs.
CJ Stander. Gibson Park. Ruddock in midfield. Rhys Ruddock's played some great rugby for Leinster this season, and rightly in the Irish setup now. Ringrose, a little bit of room for Lowe, and he's a tank of a man, and when he gets a bit of pace going, very difficult to stop. Great line from Ian Henderson. France feel like they had their hands on it. Ireland still have it. Here's James Lowe looking to get involved again. Cyril Bailly puts him to ground. Gibson Park, Ireland building. Burns, Stander, Ficou makes the tackle and rips the ball. Really good work from the French defence. And from the French centre, Gaël Ficou, all the experience of his 60 international caps coming to bear there as Ireland up the tempo and look for a weak spot.
Yeah, and as Bryce Dulin received the ball there was acres of space downfield. That moment's gone now. As Jalabert hits the ball to touch, there were no Irish defenders at home. If he'd gone long, would have got upfield, just tempted into playing. CJ Stander there, just getting isolated in the carry. Heard Sean Edwards talk about their defensive capabilities. They want to get these two-man tackles. One man really trying to attack the ball so they can't affect the offload.
Really interesting to watch the warm-ups, the intensity of the French warm-up. You passed comment on it before we came on air about how significant their preparation is by comparison to France we've seen before. We'll go back to that in a minute. Here's Billy Burns launching one up in the air. Dulin, a little nudge on Keenan, but the referee says nothing in that, let's play on. And it's really well watched by Dulin because he saw a big gap. Burns had to cover a lot of ground to get there.
Number 10 Ireland playing everyone on side.
Dulin once more. Keith Earls has called for this one and gathers it in. Henderson puts the head down, runs into LaRue.
Hold in front, Ireland. Stop line.
Swings that big left boot at it again.
Great shot.
Dupont. Well, he thought he was in the right place. He had to retreat. Lowe follows it up. That's a terrific kick as well from Dupont, but it just didn't skip away on the greasy surface to touch as he thought it might. Keenan keeps the ball in hand. Olivon off his feet, can't touch it. Here's Andrew Porter.
Okay, now.
Dulin did really well. The fullback did oh so well. He's only 5'10", you know, and he's commanding the air around him with absolute comfort. But on that occasion, having done all the hard work, they make the mistake at the breakdown and hand the penalty over to Ireland.
Well, there's a huge amount of pressure being put on this French backfield by the Irish kicking game, and largely it's been on point. Both teams managing to find the turf in their long kicking game and also trying to compete for the ball while the ball's in the air. 68% of the game is being played in the French half right now.
My distraction's taken everywhere, so.
To be honest, Bryce Dulin did very, very well to get above Gary Ringrose. He's probably twice his height.
Here's the penalty. Hawass straight off his feet. Bryce Dulin, 33 international caps now. La Rochelle scored a try last week, of course. So then, Billy Burns, the responsibility of taking on the goal kicking for Ireland today. Not first choice goal kicker for Ulster, of course, where John Cooney, his scrum half partner, takes on the kicking responsibility. On its way. And neither kicker covering themselves in glory in the opening efforts from both sides. The wind is there, but it isn't really significant, and you would have expected better efforts from both of them, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, there's probably just a bit of nerves in that area from Billy Burns. I think he's been brilliant in open play so far, been bossing his forwards, big carriers around the field.
CJ Stander loves the physical and runs straight into Julien Marchand. Hugo Keenan tries to go around the outside, but no change there. Porter runs into another tackle from Marchand.
Use it.
Gibson Park, it's going to be in the air again. Kicking game has been good from Ireland, but France have dealt with it. And this time, it's back on the Irish side.
Advantage Ireland for the knock.
Advantage being played to Ireland for the knock-on. Here's
Advantage
Robbie
over.
Henshaw. And Keith Earls out wide. Earls steps back inside. Lovely footwork. Gets him around Arthur Vincent. Gibson Park will come off slow ball. Porter hit by Willemse. 16 out of 16 tackles last week for the second row from France. Rhys Ruddock up to the 22.
Don't try and buy it, 9. Come on.
Burns. More good defending right on that gain line from France. Ireland finding it hard to get any forward momentum. Gibson Park takes it on himself. Ty Byrne looks to do the clear out.
C'est bon ici, pas ici. Sorti le placard. Exit the tackle, lads. Roll away, please. Just back here. This one was okay.
Pearce has been
But back
practicing
here
French.
is not. The jackal came.
Tell
the
you
guy
what,
was still in the road.
the contact area from both teams. Ireland doing everything they can
Possibly, but my
to get a good
assumption is
leg
back
drive, get a good contact,
here.
so they can get over the gain line. But what about this French
Post
tackling? Very, very physical. You wouldn't expect anything less, would you, from a team coached by Sean Edwards? You can see the value of Sean Edwards as a coach, the difference it's made to this French team.
9.
Yeah, it's one of
If
the
he rolls and takes
fundamental
you out,
changes
fair call.
that France have
But
brought
don't just
in
go into
the
it and
last
kick over,
18
all right?
months.
Thanks,
You
mate.
think of Sean Edwards, and you also think of the changes they've made between the national team and the clubs, and it's helped with the release of players. The old kick predictor, 94% success predicted from here. Billy Burns will not want to think about the other 6%. Second attempt of the afternoon, and it's successful on this occasion for Billy Burns. Up go the flags, and Ireland have the lead. First quarter has flown by. Ireland lead it by 3 points to 0.
It's like second ball golf, isn't it? Hit the second ball straight down the middle. Just going back to that Sean Edwards point, we're talking about the warm-up, the physicality. We had all of the forwards in the French squad doing down and ups, running the width of the 22, really getting some physical effort out in that warm-up. We're not necessarily used to that from a French team. Really interesting to see how they up the tempo even in their warm-up.
Everybody in front again, please. Hold here. Hold.
James Lowe's really being used by Ireland in this kicking game. This one is easily dealt with in the backfield by France. Jalabert can see some open territory, tries to kick it in behind Keith Earls and Lowe. Earls gets there. Lowe will look to finish the job. But that's good kicking from France in terms of getting the territory.
Yeah, they haven't had too much of that.
So then 59 tackles made by France, and they are all, you can see, well, nearly all inside their own half.
Unbelievable. And Ireland will want that
Enough.
bottom stat,
Reste
3
10
tackles
ici.
missed,
Restez 10, s'il vous
to
plaît.
creep up.
Okay, you're a receiver.
As with Sean Edwards in terms of the dominant
He's gone.
tackles. I have to say,
Number 3 is the
they've
receiver.
been pretty close to being dominant, some of those tackles.
Entered at the back.
Marchand eventually finds his own man to start with, and then it's knocked forward surely, and the referee
Hang on.
is going
It's
to
a
call
messy
it back.
situation. It looks like a knock-on off France. It's a scrum Ireland ball.
I was just about to say, first success for France in their own line-out, and having got
no,
it back on their own
fair.
side,
Here we are.
and made a bit
The
of a
line is
hames of
over.
it, and that'll give
That's
Ireland huge confidence.
Okay, let's go then. Let's go.
Paul O'Connell's impact on this Irish line-out. He's only been there 3
Stay
or
left
4
and left.
weeks, and you can see the influence from last week and today already.
Well, I noticed during the week Rory Best mentioned the impact on the defensive line-out especially, and how Ireland could take a positive from last weekend, especially in that area of the game.
Crouch.
Paul O'Connell prowling this Aviva Stadium turf
Fine.
pre-game.
Set. Ireland, use it.
Gibson Park told to use it, eventually does, and Robbie Henshaw will take it up for a yard or 2. And then the kick comes from Gibson Park. And Keith Earls is after this one. Villiers underneath it. And it's a penalty, Ireland. And a little bit heated.
I'll come into you, Christoph, a second.
Let's hear the referee.
I'm just going to speak to my assistant. So I've got the guys coming through, and they collided. So you've got a trip against the winger.
The number 4 is running after the chaser, and he trips him from behind. He clips his feet.
So we're talking a yellow card here. Do you want me to look at it? Okay, Tommy, can you just line up for me, please? If it's a clear trip, then it's a yellow card to the player who tripped him.
It's Christoph Ridley on this near side who's called the referee's attention. Let's have a little look, Tom.
It's Bernard Leroux, isn't it? Who's the player that's been highlighted.
Not see him much off that angle, mate. So it's that guy coming across him, isn't it? Here we are.
In the red scrum
Red
cap.
scrum hat, yeah, clear trip. Number, I think it's a second row, isn't it? Hang on.
Yeah, you can see the foot's gone out there.
I know, but the problem is you've tripped him. And a trip in rugby is a yellow card.
Referee, very clear. Luke Pearce sends
here,
Bernard Leroux to the bin, and it's 15 against 14 up to the 33rd minute. And in addition to that, Ireland have the penalty and the momentum. If it wasn't significantly with Ireland prior to this, it absolutely is now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Bernard Leroux just had a little look over his shoulder, doesn't he, as he changed his line. And as Luke Pearce said, unfortunately, in rugby you can't trip, so that's a yellow card. Especially in this area. Just see that it's just that left foot, isn't it? He'll say he's just got big feet.
Yeah, and he's compounded by the fact that he's changed his angle as he attempts to run across. And he's there! I don't think so. I think he's got a foot in touch on the far side. But it'll be checked.
So I've definitely got a grounding, so on-field try. Tom?
Yes, mate.
On-field try, mate. Just looking at the touch with the back foot, please.
OK, so on-field is try.
Tom Foley, the television match official, has been a busy man for the last couple of minutes. My immediate instinct is that James Lowe's foot is in touch, but we will see. Whatever the outcome, Ireland coming up with a really good plan to get away from that quick French defence.
C'est 2 secondes, s'il vous plaît.
He's in touch, I think.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is. It's a brilliant squat game from Wayne Barnes. He's right in position, isn't he?
There.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I tell you what, Gael Fickou has done brilliantly there. He's pinpointed James Lowe's foot. As we come down, watch Gael Fickou. That's brilliant.
Yeah, but
I'm still not convinced.
I'm not convinced now either.
Watch this left foot. Ooh, that's the one, isn't it? Aside from that, I think he's all good.
This, Luke. This is close.
Yeah, no, rush is on you,
no, I don't think that's gone onto the touchline.
Tight to call from our field.
It's got to be stopped.
His right foot as well touches the line there. Just bear with us. We're just double checking because it is very close.
It's a great finish.
Yeah, Luke, his right foot touches the line before he's grounded the ball, so overturn your on-field decision and go with the line out, 5 metres out.
Good work, mate. Thank you very much.
Ooh.
He's saying
millimetres.
That's right.
Well, TMO said his right foot, so it might have been the other foot that we weren't looking at.
Yeah, no rush, no rush.
A foot, anyway, has touched the line. It's not a try.
No.
Brilliant set-up play, though. Really shortened up that French defence. Left the space on the outside. Did one little criticism I'd aim at probably Hugo Keenan. Just maybe straighten up slightly, take the ball closer to that defence.
OK, just wait. Just wait.
Huge amount of pressure now on this French team.
And on this French line-out, because the line-out has not gone well for them, and it's almost a misfire again, as it was read by Ireland. They knew they were going to go long. And a hand up there almost back on the Irish side, and a mighty sigh of relief from France that it was knocked forward.
Let's go.
Oh, that's another insight.
They look very jittery, don't they, on their own line out? Henderson almost there.
Well,
Okay, just stay left and
French
left.
players saw Ian Henderson coming. They all just stopped.
Okay, Ireland, let's bind up, please. France, I'll let
As you
you
would
play.
with someone like that jumping through the air, trying to retrieve the ball. But you can see again the impact of Paul O'Connell at line-out time, the understanding of what's going on from an opposition perspective, the amount of analysis that is done pre-game in the build-up to this fixture here.
Crouch.
The understanding of what the opposition are going to do in different areas of the
Fine.
field. That's how you build your plan for the game.
Set.
Dupont and Ireland get a squeeze on the French scrum. A significant squeeze on the French scrum.
It's all come away.
Well, I don't think anybody saw this coming in terms of Ireland's ability at the set piece, both line out and now
Okay,
at
then,
scrum.
quick
They
reset.
have
Come on, let's
France
go. Quick
a
reset.
little rattled.
Pitches that side, mate.
Gael Fickou, of course, in that scrum because of the
You went
yellow
down this far
card.
side early doors, okay? Heights, please. I know.
It's a great moment for a back and get shoved on the side of a...
Yeah.
Unless
fair
you're Johnny May and you're asking people where you're putting your head. Real pressure here. Must have been close for Ireland then in terms of
Crouch.
regaining possession through the penalty.
Fine.
They'll go after it again. Remember,
Set.
LaRue, the second row in the bench. Dupont feeds Ireland. Put the squeeze on, and not surprisingly, Aldridge is not hanging around. Picks and goes and finds
Ireland
the
onside.
safety of numbers and the breakdown.
Use it.
And Dupont completes the exit. And it's a great kick from the scrum half. Keenan had to adjust, gathers it. France up quickly. Keenan's after this one. And he's done really well, the full-back, to reclaim the ball for Ireland. And Gibson Park has spotted a little bit of a gap in behind the French defence, and James Lowe went scampering after it, and there's a confidence and a pep in the step of Ireland. France look a little rattled. 27 minutes gone, but still only 3 points on the board.
Well, it's that belief, isn't it, in their defensive systems. You're not going to score from 80 metres, so we're just going to keep putting the ball in behind you. Watch this from Hugo
Back
Keenan.
10, lads.
I thought it was a bit short to start with, but
Stay 10, France.
fully focused eyes on the ball. It helped
Stay
that
2
it
minutes,
came up
mate.
against Antoine Dupont when he was trying to catch it, but anyway.
France do well in their own line-out. It's rare, clean ball for them. And Dupont, under a bit of pressure from CJ Stander, gets the kick away, and it's another big one. And James Lowe will go back and claim, and then fires one high. Where's this one off to? It's landed on the French side, and kicked downfield. Gibson Park will complete the clearance.
It's good patience, isn't it, from the Irish? They've got a really good understanding about how they're going to try and go about this game. Not afraid to just keep punting the ball back up in the air, apply pressure to the back three. Listen,
Here's the foot in touch. Watch that back foot.
it's the
There.
right one.
Your
Good
receiver.
spot,
This.
Tom Foley. Everyone's
Well
focused
done,
on the
Tom
left foot.
Foley. Indeed, we were all looking at the left foot. It was the right. Jalibert, Fickou in midfield. Jalibert once more. France with a bit of ball in hand and beautifully weaved from one player to the next, and then somehow appearing with it is Penaud, and France just 6 or 7 metres short now of the Irish line. It's flown out to Fickou, and a lovely pop pass off to Olivon, and France are going to get in. Wonderful. Olivon scores the try from France. 29 minutes it's taken them to wake up, but when they did, wow.
Well, that's the moment we've all been expecting, isn't it? Charles Olivon just jogging it in down this left touchline. How many offloads? Before this, the French had only had one offload. They chucked about 5 in here. That from Jalibert is unbelievable. I mean, we don't expect anything else, do we, from Antoine Dupont? The ability to fight through contact. It's the confrontation mixed with the balance of deft skill. Okay, there's a bit of a bounce pass here, which always sets the defence up. Jameson Gibson Park, well, you look back and say, well, maybe I could have done that slightly differently. It's always tempting, though, to rush out. Has to rush out on the man, though, but brilliant from France.
Lovely little cameo in there as well from Gaël Fickou. A little basketball pass over the top.
This is the moment where Ireland are under the sticks going, well, let's just try and hold it all together. We've had all of the game to date. Just shows you how dangerous they are.
Just wonderful play from the French side. Gives this conversion attempt to Mathieu Jalabert. 7 from 7 last week in Rome before he was called ashore. Missed his first penalty opportunity this afternoon, but this one should be straightforward. And up go the flags, and it's the full 7, and it's the full 7 with only 14 players on the pitch.
It shows you how dangerous this team are, and we talked about it, didn't we, as they came out. The informed team probably in World Rugby.
Ireland.
Just shows you why. Sniff of an opportunity, and they've converted it. Coaches talk about converting point or visits to the 22 to points. That's how you do it.
That Olivon's 8th international try, by the way. Remember, he scored 4 tries in the Six Nations last year.
I read.
CJ Stander gathers the ball inside his own half, and Villiers comes up to him. Lovely pass from CJ Stander, and then the kick from Hugo Keenan, and cross comes Dulin, and didn't he do that well? Changed his point of attack, found some space for himself, and then the clearing kick. In France, they looked in trouble for a moment, but they do very well to extricate themselves from it. CJ Stander setting it up, great run back, and then the offload to Hugo Keenan.
Non pour moi. France, 6.
And Ireland must be wondering, how do we get ourselves into this position? 61% possession to France's 39. And the territory is very much in Ireland's favour as well. They find themselves behind in the only statistic that really counts, the scoreboard. 7 points to 3. Wonderful try from Olivon, France. Porter runs into a big tackle from Gelon.
Okay, Ireland, use it. 9.
Gibson Park.
Go on, Tommy.
That one is so high,
By 6
and it's
France,
really well
okay, so
competing.
advantage, just keep the mark for me.
And have it back on their side.
Advantage Ireland.
Earls will play scrum half. It's an advantage
No,
being
you
played
tripped
to
over him.
Ireland.
Play on. Still under
Free
advantage.
roll of the dice for Ireland. Porter a little bit isolated.
Mark
the prop.
was just inside Ireland's half, Tom.
France didn't commit anybody to the breakdown.
For the advantage,
Here's Ringrose. Great balance. Gary Ringrose almost away. Cyril Bay holds onto his shirt. Tyg Byrne on his shoulder. Ireland had the free play.
That's
almost took advantage of it. We'll go back.
6. Plaqueur. Thanks, mate. Just give me the mark for
Gary
me.
Ringrose.
Just back here.
Just checking, having a little look on that inside shoulder of that French defence, searching for that hole.
No arms.
Number 6, his arms are on the ground. You've got to have it in front
Anthony
of you.
Gelon.
Merci, 6. Billy. Sorry.
Blindside flanker who came in for Dylan Cretin.
Okay, I've just got a bit on my plate at the moment. Ian,
One of the 2 changes in the French side today.
Thanks, mate. Good work, Tom.
One stat standing out to me on this screen in front of me: 77 tackles
but not on,
made
not
by
on
the
the
French, only 4 missed. The Irish, they've only made 36, but they've missed 6 of them.
Bernard Leroux is back in the game. It's 15 against 15, and most importantly from France's perspective, they won that period of 15 against 14. Down for Gibson Park. Burns. CJ Stander back on the angle, and he's held up in midfield. Gibson Park to Rob Herring, Ulster's hooker, 18th international. Very much in the shadow of Rory Best for so long. Herring, there's a pass that could have been picked off by Dupont, but Gibson Park still has it for Ireland. And Ireland off their feet. at the breakdown, and what was a very disciplined
Relax.
and accurate
down.
effort from Ireland for the first 30 minutes has wobbled in the last 4 or 5.
I know, but mate, I've just given a penalty here, so we don't need
French
to
were always
renege.
going to have periods in the game
Oh, I see. Right.
when
fair
they came
enough.
to the fore.
8 off feet.
Those daft penalties, they just need to try and keep those to a minimum. Things like coming off your feet at the breakdown, they're simple ones to rectify. But it just means that France managed to alleviate the pressure they have on themselves. You watch here, CJ Stander, he's just launched himself over the top of that rope. No real argument for anything against what the referee gave.
Galtier and Rafael Ibanez, former French hooker, who's the team manager now, in the forefront of that coach's box. Here's Jalabert. And well ripped by Ian Henderson and well gathered by CJ Stander, and Herring tries to pop it on. It's like a bar of soap for a moment for Billy Burns, who's held up by Aldrit, and then he rips the ball and France come away with it again, and it's popped off, and Gelon is there, and once more France power towards the Irish line, but it's knocked forward by Williamson, the second row, when he had the line at his mercy, and on-rushing French players just couldn't find a man, and Ireland let off the hook. But anytime they have some sort of space, France, well, they just shift the ball so quickly, and Ireland at times chasing shadows defensively, and France are going to keep that tempo going. Here's Dulin. Bryce Dulin cut off by Ruddock and by Byrne, but still finds the pass away to Penaud. Dupont. Leroux, after his 10 minutes rest, sets up France once more.
Here. It's available.
Dupont, little pass back inside, he just oozes confidence. Scrum half again, Cian Healy trying to stifle his ability to do anything at that occasion. And Ireland,
hang on, he can never move because he's trapped in by this knee. It's a scrum, France.
it's a French scrum. Ireland thought they turned it over.
Some good D there, though, from the
Tons
tight
of
five.
bodies trapped on the
Cian
ground.
Healy
There's always a tackle. Scrum,
really
France.
making his presence felt. Antoine Dupont, you've got to be so sharp in and around that breakdown.
Time off, please.
Guard half and first defender, guard in and around the breakdown, just do not move. Your job is to stand still, probably the easiest job in the defensive setup today for the Irish. Whoever is that second defender out at half, you've got to make sure that Antoine Dupont is taken care of. As we see, tackles missed are now level.
Ireland have had to make a lot more tackles in the last 7 or 8 minutes than they did in the opening of 25. Jonathan Sexton alongside James Lowe, water boy today.
Ian, just remember, I can't reward any jackal when players are the wrong side. Okay, there are a couple of their potentials, but anything the wrong
Sexton
side, I
and
can't
James Ryan both ruled out of this game, not able to pass all the stages of the return to play after receiving bang to the head last weekend.
Okay, left of the mark, please.
They need to be defensively very, very solid here. Villiers looking like he's going to add a number into that open side attack for the French. Lining up just in behind Charles Ollivant. Midfield really flat though. Jalabert.
Set.
Ficou. Almost on the same line.
Dupont, as Aldrit looks to gather the ball, and they go down the narrow side, and Ruddock does well to get the number 8 to ground. Dupont, Cyril Bay, Herring meets him on the gain line, but Bay pumps the legs and tries to turn the corner and get forward momentum again. Advantage being played, Ireland on the wrong side.
Chose the wrong way.
Cian Healy's the one.
That's accidental, back to the penalty, 1 away.
Cian Healy was trying to come out and get out of the way, but he chose the wrong way. You heard the referee say it, and he's given away a penalty straight in front of the posts.
It's tough for Cian Healy, but it's certainly an area that's been a focus for the referees. They want to get quick ball, they want to get that tackler away and make sure there's a clear release. 3 areas at the breakdown that will speed the game up, ensure that the defensive team are put under pressure. We want to see fast-flowing rugby. That's how we're going to get it. and making sure that everyone's out the way at the breakdown so that that 9 can get their hand on the ball quickly, move the ball away.
So then Mathieu Jalibert with a chance to extend France's lead as we head towards the half-time break, and up go the flags, and the sun is out in Dublin and the sun is shining for France. We head towards the end of the 39th minute. It's Ireland 3, France 10.
And it's a good return for the French after what was a very, very lively first 25 minutes from the Irish. Now a chance to get their hands back on the ball. See if they can try and stay down this end of the field for a bit longer than they have recently.
Aldrit.
Okay, France.
Sends France up again.
Use it.
Dupont. Marchand is wrapped up by Ireland.
Use it. No, one sec.
It's dropped by Dupont, but I think it went backwards.
Ireland. 5. No, give it up.
Gelon. Leroux on his shoulder. France keeping it tight, and Dupont will do so again. Another pod led by Cyril Bay.
No. Use it.
Happy to run the clock down towards the 40 and get it out of here and go to the changing rooms with a 7-point lead.
Use.
It's not. He got a penalty. Ireland, well, they got a penalty through Billy Burns, and at half-time, it's the home side that have a lot of work to do. They trail it by 10 points to 3.
I personally can't see Ireland coming.
No.
It's turned into a very pleasant afternoon in Dublin as France make their way back out onto this Aviva Stadium pitch, leading it by 10 points to 3 at the half. What will the message have been to that Irish side at half-time, Tom? Because, again, you'll have played in games where you've dominated possession for large parts and just not got the reward for it, and then you get sucker punched by a fantastic try and find yourselves down at half-time, and you wonder, how did that happen?
I think the thing to say is they need to stick with what they were doing in that first 30 minutes. You know, putting high balls up on Dulin and Villiers, who clearly aren't the biggest of back three, and trying to pressurise those two and retrieving the ball so that they can apply pressure to that French team. Listen, we know that this team are on form and they can strike from anywhere. And I think defensively, it was just one, lapse in concentration that ultimately allowed this team to get in behind you. And defensively, when you let any French team get in behind you, it's so tough to stop.
Andy Farrell makes his way back to the coach's box. Last 10 games between Ireland and France. Ireland have won 6, France 2, and there have been 2 draws, those back in 2012 and 2013. It's not a gimme for France ever in Dublin in the last decade. They've started this game as the side we know they are, capable of beating any team in the world on their day right now, no doubt about that. Off and running in the second half at the Aviva Stadium. France get us underway, and you feel that Ireland must score next if they hold out any hope of stopping the flow of this French side, who have the momentum and, most importantly, from their perspective, have a 7-point lead right now.
James Lowe not quite getting the connection he would have wanted on that exit. French will be licking their lips at this opportunity. Shorten line out. Leroux and Aldrit straight into the midfield.
Marchand didn't have the best first half in terms of line-out wins, but that's clean ball for France, and Aldrit in the midfield sets France up again, and it's good clean ball, and onto it comes Marchand, and Marchand is away, and the hooker's going to try and get there all on his own. The cavalry arrives, and it's off a French head from the pass of Dupont, and Ireland are off the hook because it looked like it had to be a second French try. Apologies if you picked up some bad language in that moment.
Well, it's an amazing break from Marchand.
Just take time, Andrew. Just waiting for the kicker.
Dupont, he'll argue he couldn't have hit anything else. Look at the size of the Swede on Willemse. That ball was definitely not going to him. What do you call that? A falcon, I think, don't you?
Well, it was supposed to be, I think, for Arthur Vincent, and that man, Paul Willemse, got himself and his head in the way.
Stick him up front for PSG next week.
Looks like Billy Burns is going to have to make way for HIA. So Billy Burns will make way, and in his place will come Ross Byrne. Ross Byrne, experienced now, plays second fiddle to Jonathan Sexton at Leinster, but still plays a lot of frontline games. It's his 12th international cap. I have to say, I watched him in the warm-up. It looked like he took a bang or two in what was, again, a very physical warm-up. He had the attention of the physios for a couple of moments, but obviously they were able to sort him out and able to take his place on the bench. But it'll be interesting to see how he goes over the next couple of moments. He gets Ireland on their way, and Keith Earls chases up well, and Villiers sort of flings one out, but it was a pretty comfortable one, and Aldrit gets France going forward, and they are making inroads into that Irish defence. The two Irish players are down and out of the game right now, and the referee has been called by Wayne Barnes on this near side.
Okay, Tommy, thanks, mate.
It was a clash of heads, and the referee, with his assistant this side, Wayne Barnes, very experienced official, it was a right call. Let's see if we can see what happened here.
It's going to be one of those where you have swing round the back. Oh,
Cian Healy and Ian Henderson. Ouch.
It's always the way. Get your head in those positions to try and make the tackle. Hopefully, for these two players, it's just a case of a bit of claret.
I'm not sure that either of them are going to be able to continue without some sort of HIA assessment from the medical staff on the sideline. Looked, well, you can see the outcome of the collision. So Billy Burns already gone for a HIA, and Andy Farrell has got a bit to ponder here.
Oh, these players, they'll get really well looked after when it comes to head injuries. Sport's done brilliantly in terms of putting together the HIA protocols.
Just back on the 10.
Really allow the players to go through a process before they can come back onto the field.
So Cian Healy comes out for, I guess, a combination of a blood injury and a HIA, and he'll be looked at before there's any consideration into him returning, which means that Ed Byrne will come off the bench for his 4th international cap, the Leinster prop forward. And there he is. Brother Brian is playing with Bristol these days. Twin brother Ian Henderson, Ireland's captain, is going to make way as well, and in his place will come Ultan Dillane. And we're hearing from the sideline that with Ian Henderson gone, Gary Ringrose takes over the captaincy for
Everybody
Ireland.
Okay? Okay.
Very interesting
Time on,
what Andy
please.
Farrell said, wasn't it, about Ian Henderson standing up last week when a couple of leaders were off the field. Who steps up now? Here's Gary Ringrose as captain, but really need all of those players to really get a hold of this game.
Taking out the injuries from Ireland, the tempo that France have started this second half, they almost scored a try in the opening 30 seconds, and again that carry from Aldrit on that occasion was just punching a big hole in the Irish defence, and they were hanging on. Standard picks and feeds Ross Byrne. Ringrose. James Lowe says it was knocked forward.
So, option is it? By option for scrum or line out, is it? C'est melee or ligne?
Well, here's Gary Ringrose. Did
Melee.
it come off the French hand of Arthur Vincent? And the referee
Scrum option.
says nope, it's scrum France.
Played well last week, didn't he? He's come in for
Je pense le
Remy
dernier melee,
Vakatawa, who you would have thought would have been a massive loss for any team. But this guy, this young lad, has stepped up and done amazingly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just
Left
21
the
years
line.
of age, and I was saying last week the comparison's already been drawn with Philippe Sella. There is that much expectation of his ability and what he can bring to the French side over the coming years. But as you say, everybody fit for France. He may not even start.
Traps.
I think what you're judged on as a centre is getting your basics
Fine.
done well and then making line breaks and tackle breaks. He made
Set.
2 line breaks last week and 5 tackle breaks. Not too bad.
Stay in, stay in. France, jeu.
Dupont for Ficou. Penaud comes around the corner and kicks downfield. James Lowe has a little look to see who's coming and where the ball is, and that should be comfortable. That was frankly poorly executed by France. Penaud's kick was always comfortable for Ireland. Keith Earls being tempted into a quick 22, but he's thought better of it. Back will go.
Might have been a pre-call by the French, but not sure that was the exact option to take. Especially
Okay,
if it's
10, let's
executed
go.
like that, just allows the Irish an opportunity to get the ball upfield.
Here's Bryce Dulin. And Dupont, narrow side. Penaud, watched by Lowe, but Penaud gets away and saw a little gap, tried to accelerate through it, presents the ball for Dupont again, and then Marchand. And the Irish just falling off a tackle or two and allowing the offloads, and this time it goes to Hawass, and the prop forward from Montpellier powers forward and gets France going forward once more through the hands, and the execution, again, not what it might be from Vincent to Dulin on that occasion.
They're just starting to go through the gears, though, aren't they, this French team? Trying to find holes, or they are finding holes. This is brilliant from Aldrit. It's his ability to get through the contact. Such a big bloke.
Okay, let's bind up then, Ireland.
So that's not the most sympathetic of
Let's
passes
go, France.
to Vincent.
Well, they're the offload numbers that really count. They're the ones that you know are the causers of defenders falling away, and 7 offloads for France to Ireland's 2, and that is a pretty significant advantage for the French.
It's just so hard to set the defence, isn't it? When the ball keeps shifting out of contact.
Stand up. No, just
Generally
a very
be 2
small
players
thing.
on the
Everyone's
floor.
pre-engaged. Respect l'espace, s'il vous plaît. Non, en bleu, ici. Allez, allez. 2, allez.
Oh, he's been
Ireland,
so
space,
well
number 3. Come on.
isn't he?
Quick
Great
reset.
French.
Let's go. No pre-engage. Crouch. Bind. Set.
Gibson Park to the Irish scrum. Robbie Henshaw, the first receiver, straightened it up and runs into Jalibert.
No.
Dupont told to get away, Judy does. Gibson Park, some height on those kicks. Labrouk wrestled to the ground by Rob Herring. Possession though, back with France and inside the Irish half, well, for a moment anyway. Marchand doesn't get away on that occasion. Van der Fleer went after it. Dupont, little pop pass, but CJ Stander read it and read it well. Ireland need a bit of momentum as the second half progresses. Ross Byrne. Hugo Keenan thought about the pass, then held on. Gibson Park. Byrne. Tadhg Beirne. James Lowe to Byrne. Substitute tries to push Dupont back, and James Lowe completes the task. Ross Byrne, Ringrose, did really well to get the ball away as Aldry lined him up. CJ Stander hit by LaRue. Ireland trying to find their way out of their own half. Just Stander once more, sorry Tom.
Just need to be careful that they're not going backwards all the time, just trying to play their way into a hole. At some point, you've got to try and create the opportunity to make the kick on their terms.
And there it is from James Lowe, and it's a searcher that finds its way inside the French 22.
Well, that's exactly the kick they wanted, finding James Lowe on this near touchline. Brilliant kick. Huge amount of huff and puff from the Irish, but ultimately, if it's not going your way, just put the ball downfield.
Well, in the first quarter of this game in particular, Ireland were able to put a significant amount of pressure on this French line-out. They'll want to try and do so again. Marchand. It was messy, but the referee keeps his whistle in his hand, and we will continue.
Back we come. Ireland throwing the player across.
Well, it was a line-out infringement that the referee picked up on.
Across the line.
He had kept his whistle in his hand, but Tadhg Beirne is the one who's penalised. You'll see it in the replay. It wasn't the up, it was the across.
The down bit.
Thanks, mate.
That one's not going to find touch. James Lowe gathers. And a little look to see where France's back three were. There was some green grass over there, but Dulin covered the ground really well. Ross Byrne's kick. French line out.
Yeah, the French won that battle. All about ensuring that you get far upfield. If you've got enough time like that, it was almost like Ross Byrne had too much time to think about that one.
Game's run out of a little bit of spark. We need something from somewhere to ignite it again at the Aviva. 10 minutes gone in this second half.
He's in the scrum, 9 is receiver. Hold 10, Ireland. Hold, I read this. 15.
It's another messy line out from France, and Josh van der Fleer wins the competition when it hits the deck, and Ruddock keeps driving the legs, but France put him to ground before he makes any significant gain. Henshaw, he's wrapped up as well. 2 French players there. Tackling from France has been outstanding, and finding it so hard to find a way either through or around. Villiers steps Keith Earls, beautiful from the winger. Ireland in over it, but France have. Dupont sees that Keith Earls is out of position in that wing, so tries to exploit that space. And it'll go dead, we'll have a 22 dropout.
Just a little moment there, wasn't there? As Villiers stepped Keith Earls as he flew in to make a big hit.
But just be careful, okay?
Just opened up that far touchline. It was nearly away, wasn't he? It's the moments like that. You talked about the spark in the game. That's what Ireland need to try and shut down dead from this French attack. Don't give them a sniff.
It's a great restart in terms of being able to turn it into a competition from Ross Byrne. And CJ Stander has come away with it for Ireland, and Gibson Park had a look up and saw France were up. Jalabert will have plenty of time to get back and gather. Steps Henshaw, steps Tyke Byrne, hit by Andrew Porter. That one hurt.
9.
Great hit from Andrew Porter.
9, je.
Low claims we're hearing Billy Burns will not be coming back to the game, so Ross Byrne will continue that out half. No word yet on Cian Healy or Ian Henderson. Here is Ross Byrne. Hugo Keenan on his shoulder, and Ireland have numbers and they're facing 1 or 2 forwards as Keith Earls comes back inside Leroux and he puts the gas down and gets Ireland into the French half. Numbers need to arrive, they do, but it's messed up between Gibson Park and Van der Fleer, and it's advantage to France. For that knock on, James Lowe comes thundering across and doesn't gather it, and Villiers has got it, and it's almost back inside, and it was very, very messy, but France almost took advantage. But Ireland, well, they're the architects of their own downfall on occasions here.
Well, it's just the accuracy, isn't it? Van der Fleer's backside as he comes in to just make sure that Villiers can't get a hold of Jamison Gibson Park. Oh, it's... You can see their desperation as well to play out of their tackle. Yeah, granted, Villiers was right by the touchline as well. Probably didn't quite know how close he was. They look sharp, that back three, though, don't they, for the French?
They sure do. They sure do. They have options and weapons in attack, well, really all over the pitch. And you look to their bench and you look like someone like
injured?
Teddy Thomas, who they can still introduce.
Water off, please.
Ireland are going to make a change.
Off, let's go.
Tyke Furlong's coming into the game, which means Andrew Porter will make way his last contribution, a significant tackle.
Mêlée bleu, of course.
Porter goes, Furlong in for cap number 46.
Okay then. Time on. Stay left and left.
So we'll resume with the scrum to France for the knock-on from James Lowe.
Yeah, again, hovering in and around the base of that scrum, dependent on the wheel.
Crouch.
That's the way he'll shoot. Very narrow blindside.
Fine.
Look how flat.
Set.
10 and 12 are. Gaël Fickou.
France.
Right on the limit at 5 metres.
Dupont thinking about the narrow side, takes it on, and it's Fickou who he finds. And that's a really good carry from Gaël Fickou, and Dupont, Dalgreet and Ringrose makes the tackle, but France marching forward towards that Irish line. Every carry is delivering significant distance, and Ireland are offside, and it's a free play for France.
Advantage France.
Dupont goes looking for it. Somehow Ireland need to hold France out. It can't be any more than 3 if they have designs on winning this game, you feel. Pass will go to Dulin. He goes past the first tackle. It was Lowe who didn't make it, and it's Benno who finds the corner. Around Damien Benno came, and that coming from a missed tackle from James Lowe that set France free, and Benno is in for his 7th international try.
It's a brilliant finish from Damien Penaud, exactly what you'd expect from him.
Go on, Sean, on you go.
Especially given Teddy Thomas bagged 2 of his own last week. But this moment
water there, please.
Coming up now as James Lowe flies off his wing. If you're going to fly off your wing, you have to make sure that you collect man and ball. And he didn't do that, which just allowed Bryce Dulin to step on his inside shoulder. And it's an offload with the wrong hand, which is brilliant. As he's trying to fend his way into the corner. Offloads to Penaud. Good finish.
Yeah, James Lowe won't want to see that one over and over. It left Ed Byrne, replacement prop, 1-on-2 with Dulin and Penaud, and there was only going to be one outcome. That one's going to go across the post, so just the 5 for France. They lead it by 15 points to 3, and there's a change at hooker for Ireland. In will come Kelleher, Ronan Kelleher. Out goes Rob Herring. And a change also for France. Rui Antonio will come in. I think it's Hawass that will go. "12 points the difference, and the truth is, with the exception of that James Lowe try that wasn't over in the far corner in the first half, Ireland have not looked like scoring a try.
Avant la ballon, c'est le contact.
Well, certainly, they're not quite as sharp in attack, are they? The attack's slightly more blunt. It's a lot more direct.
Pour moi, sous le monde la pénalité.
Not quite as sharp in and around the spaces that are created.
Penalty there for the tackle on Keith Earls of Olivant when Earls was in the air. He's still on the ground.
Unless anyone thinks it's... Yeah. So not in a position to catch the ball, it's just a penalty.
Second on Ireland's
on we go.
all-time scoring charts is Keith Earls with 32 tries, still some significant distance behind the number one, who's Brian O'Driscoll with 46.
Send him on, mate. Is that the reversal of the HIA, is it? Yeah. Number 17.
Cian Healy's coming back into the game, which means that Ed Byrne will make way.
The blood or the HIA.
The stat there. Meters made after contact, 48 by France, just 19 by the Irish.
Okay, restez là, bleu. Time on, please.
Massively different.
Ireland don't. Well, they do somehow come away with it. I'm not sure how, but Kelleher's into the game, and Kelleher has the try. Well, we need to go back and look at that, because it looked like Ireland had botched the line out, but it's regained, and what an impact from the bench from Kelleher. 8th international cap, first international try, and there might be life in Ireland just yet.
Well, that's exactly the spark again that you mentioned. Comes off a pretty ugly line out that didn't quite go to plan, but you've got to react to where that ball's going.
2 seconds, please.
When Ronan Kelleher,
yeah, just take time off, Andrew. There's no TMO check.
He's in and
yet.
behind. Well, look at him get those knees up.
There isn't a knock on. So Christoph was very clear.
Brushing Vieira off
backwards off
as
5,
he comes
blue.
Across.
So
unless there's evidence
looking
to fully
for
show that it's a knock on, then
a potential knock on.
Thank you. Time on. Try stance.
Try stance, says the referee. You've had a look and happy that there was no knock forward, so Kelleher can chalk that one down.
Really chest out for the rest of this game. Bring me on, I'll make a difference.
Ian Henderson's back in the game, so both Healy and Henderson survive the blood and HIA exams, and they're back in the game for the final quarter. Ross Byrne, an attempt to reduce the gap a little bit further, and he does, and all of a sudden, as we head towards the 60-minute marker, it's just a 5-point game. Ireland 10, France 15.
It's all about reacting to the ball. Well, look, Antoine Dupont, he did his best to react to where the ball was going, but we've seen it already in this game. It can bounce in any direction, and you've got to be there to make the most of it.
Time off, please.
Well,
une et deux, France. Remplacement.
Did exactly that.
Send him on, mate.
Looks like there's going to be a change at hooker for France. Out will go Marchand.
Okay.
Oh, well, they've changed their minds. Back you go.
Welcome back.
Back you go.
Everyone okay?
Bulgarit will
Time
surely come in, but not just yet. CJ Stander wrapped up by Penaud. And was sent backwards. It's a great kick chase by the French. Ireland are going to have to start from a tight angle, 5 metres from their own line.
Ireland, use it. En jeu.
Gibson Park. That's a good belt from there.
Yeah, narrow angle. Did brilliantly to get it that far up the field. The Irish need to use that moment from Ronan Kelleher to spark themselves into life, bring some energy, Just
Number
seems
10
like
is
those
receiver for
changes,
France.
Billy Burns, Ian Henderson, Cian Healy, all going off at the same time, just took a bit of life out of them, didn't it?
Aldridge, not for the first time, in midfield, takes the ball and gets forward momentum for France again. Here's Marchand.
7.
Dupont, Cyril Bay squirms his way. Kelleher puts him to ground eventually.
France, Lash.
Ireland have turned this one over. Kelleher and then Ringrose. Really good work from Ireland at the breakdown. They turn that one over. There have been few turnovers at the breakdown in this game. Gibson Park comes forward and doesn't gather. This one is still in, and Lowe's going to have to be awake, and he is awake. As Dupont came after him. Well, here's the turnover.
Eyes up, Christophe.
Josh van der Fleer and Tadhg Beirne in together. I think it was Beirne who came away with it. And then Gibson Park. Oof, that could have been a real problem for Ireland, but Lowe, he looked over the wrong shoulder.
Tadhg Beirne, he gets through
Okay,
some work, doesn't he? 21 carries last week, 48 rucks hit, 10 tackles. It's the same again today. The work that he gets through.
Keith Earls comes around behind the French and gathers the ball, and there's a bit of spark about Ireland all of a sudden. Here's Ross Byrne. Was that flat or forward? Wayne Barnes on this side has kept the flag down and his voice quiet, which means we'll continue. Gibson Park, Ross Byrne, Hugo Keenan held up by LaRue. Ruddock, Aldridge meets him on the gain line. No way through for Ireland's number 6 there. Lowe runs the dummy line. Here's Henshaw, a little bit of movement from Ireland in that back line. Ringrose runs into Olivon as he attempted to turn and wriggle out of the tackle.
Just starting to find some spaces on the fringes of this French defence.
Gibson Park, that was a good kick because Dupont looked like he might be able to charge it down. Keith Earls has gone after this one again, but not able to compete.
Onside Ireland.
Tactic that's working for them though, isn't it? Jamieson, Gibson Park knocking it into the air. Generally their chase is coming up trumps.
It is, no doubt about that. Dupont. This time it's France's turn to kick the ball high and turn it into a competition, but Lowe was always the favourite on that one, and then has a little look up and sees no one at home for France, and he's going tearing after this one, but the ball's going to beat everybody and it might end up going dead. No, 22 dropout. Dulin wasn't taking any chances.
It was the right idea. Just as he was about to catch that ball, he noticed once he'd beaten Penaud, there wasn't a huge amount of defenders behind him. Gaël Fickou did well to come across.
Okay then, jeu s'il vous plaît.
Well, it hasn't been a classic, but it is on a knife edge in the final quarter of this game at the Aviva Stadium.
Definitely not in this yet. This isn't a done deal by any means.
Stander
No.
somehow gets go forward ball. Tadhg Furlong, Gary Ringrose, a little bit of space for Ringrose. Vincent marshals him. Back comes Van der Fleer. Great work from LaRue at the breakdown. Ruddock again. Antonio puts him to ground. Quicker ball for Gibson Park. Ross Byrne and Ronan Kelleher. Byrne again. Attacks that gain line. Needs support. Fickou over it. And Ireland are going to get pinged here.
Back we come, just over the shoulder.
They need to be careful. Ross Byrne.
The jackal was fine, but the first tackle is one more.
That is a big call.
Over the shoulder, contact with the neck.
My immediate reaction at that breakdown is that Ireland were going to get penalised.
Exactly. You going post? What? Yeah, it's all right, no worries. I'm not panicking, boys. Don't worry. You still happy with the post?
Must be on Ross Byrne's
called.
End of range. Now this here, Ross Byrne's far better, giving a short ball there to CJ Stander, who's then running into Antoine Dupont. I want Ross Byrne, from an Irish point of view, on his feet as much as possible.
That was for the tackle, which was high before Fickou got over it. That's where the penalty comes from. And Ross Byrne has a chance to close the gap to just 2.
Well, this is a big kick.
It sure is.
If they can get to within 2, the Irish tails will be twitching.
Big moment in this game. On its way from Byrne. That
Great
looks
shot.
good. That looks very, very good. Take a bow, Ross Byrne. It is a 2-point game. Sexton applauds, and so he should. His understudy at Leinster and his understudy for so long in Ireland has just made this a very, very interesting final 15 minutes.
Well, Andy Farrell, as we see him in shot, all he's talked about all week is opportunity. It's an opportunity for Ross Byrne right now, and he's taking it. What a kick that was.
Well, when Damien Penaud went over for that try in the 54th minute, and it was 15 points to 3, you thought this game was gone from an Irish perspective. And all of a sudden, here we are on 65 minutes, and it's a 2-point game. Van der Fleer is gone. Will Connors is in his place, and Cian Healy is up for the fight again, and Ireland turn the ball over. Here's Furlong. He's made a difference for Ireland since he's come in. James Lowe. All of a sudden, there's space out there for Ireland's backs to run into. Ringrose shuffles it on to Keith Earls, who tries to get away from the tackle of Arthur Vincent.
Definitely that edge in and around 13. They're splitting the field, the French, with Ficou and Vincent on the end of the defensive line. Ireland can stack that early part of the attack, draw in the defenders. There's space out there to try and exploit.
No, don't nod.
Here's
Again.
Byrne. Up comes Penaud. James Lowe stands him up and gets away from him, and then decides kick rather than keeping the ball in hand, and this one is out on the full. And having done the hard work of dealing with the defender, the kick hands the momentum straight back to France.
That's right.
He's put under pressure by
Change, France.
scrambling defence from the French.
And there you see the scoring sequence. Ireland with the opening penalty, and then there was that yellow card, but somehow France managed to fashion a try, and a terrific try
That's
through
right.
Olivon.
If you stay as full,
and then
Les,
Penaud.
I'll give you a chance to adjust.
Back
Okay?
they came, Ireland, through
Only on this
Kelleher,
one,
and then the
then.
boot of Ross Byrne.
Yeah, no, of course. C'est combien, s'il vous plaît?
Teddy Thomas is into the game,
Set.
and it's
Merci.
Penaud who's gone.
Okay,
There he
stay
is.
10
2
on.
tries last week for
I read
Teddy
this.
Thomas against Italy. Racing 92 star man. Well, they have so many star men. And Cretin is in as well. Dylan Cretin in for Jalonche.
Tackle!
Ball was there. I think CJ Stander managed to get a hold of it, and now Ireland, well, they weren't able to control it. It's there for France. And they don't control it. And it's all got a little bit scrappy, and France, who were looking so good, well, are still capable at any moment of catching fire once again. And this man will be in the middle of it. Jalabert, Teddy Thomas, cold hands,
Advantage.
knock forward, not once but twice. And Ireland get the put into the scrum.
It's good harrying from the Irish defence, though. They're really not letting for French get any sort of space.
Send him on, mate.
We saw it in the first 20 minutes.
9.
And it was just a lack of it
Enough.
for a good period of time in between. Now they've got a sniff.
As you watch Jalabert not find Teddy Thomas, there's another change for Ireland as Jordan Larmour comes into the game. Keith Earls will make way. Larmour, just 23 years of
then,
age. There he
lined
is.
up. Left of the
26th
line.
international cap, and he can find room in the tightest of situations.
Don't need to do anything flash here, the Irish. Plenty of time on the scoreboard, 12 minutes
Fine.
to try and get into that
Set.
10-12 space in and around Jalabert and then clear upfield. ball's coming.
Henshaw picks out Jalabert and gets a yard. James Lowe back in the pocket again.
Stop 13.
Teddy Thomas is watching this one and he wants to get on with it quickly, and he does. Finds Bryce Dulin. Hugo Keenan does well. Teddy Thomas, Kelleher snags him, and Ireland pile in over the top to try and get the ball back. Where is it? It's there for France. No, it's not. It's there for Ian Henderson. And back come Willemse and co. Oh,
The breakdown is one of the most intense contests, isn't it?
ferocious breakdown with 11 minutes left, and then Ireland knock it forward. Keane Healy wasn't ready for that one. An advantage for the knock-on is over as Fiku prods it downfield. Lowe has covered some amount of ground to get there, and that's a good relieving kick from Ireland's winger.
Still alive.
Brilliant kick. Brilliant kick. 4 metres of space, if that. And he stuck it 40 metres upfield and left Bryce Dulin with no choice but to just leave for the full line-out.
Yeah, Lowe has
Number 1 change
had a
for
decent
Ireland,
game, no doubt about his mistake for the Penno try, but outside of that, with Boot in particular, he's played well. Ed Byrne, Keane Healy,
Yeah,
well,
same again.
it's been
So
a
stay
war
as full
for
until
him
they get
on his
told otherwise.
106th international cap.
France complete encore.
Tyke Furlong looks on.
5-man Ireland. Time is off.
We head towards the final 10 minutes
Just hold him there, Christophe.
of the second weekend
Hang on, just
of
hold
the
him
Guinness
there.
Six Nations.
France, André, s'il vous plaît.
It's a break week next week,
Time on.
and then Ireland are off to Italy, France at home to Scotland, England and Wales, that all to come in a fortnight's time. Larmour. Decent kick, but France will have the throw into the line out on that 10-metre line.
We just need to search out those
France,
opportunities,
Sebastian,
Ireland, to try and turn the ball over and attack from that turnover ball. Haven't really seen a huge amount of opportunity from set piece or phase play. If they can get the turnovers, they could be in with a shout.
Roman Teofipanoa is into the game.
Time on.
There he is. And it's
No,
Willemse
this
who
one
makes
is-
way.
Yeah, tight head's the receiver.
Oliver, contact in the air
Advantage.
means it's advantage to France, and they'll get that penalty. Ireland trying to compete and giving away a cheap penalty.
Okay.
And it's Oliver who's clutching the leg. It's an awkward landing, no doubt about that.
Post is the decision.
Tyke Byrne, the man who was competing.
We'll line the kick up.
One of the Irish players has
I
accidentally
understand,
just
but that's the call we
fallen
had. So.
on Oliver, hasn't he? He's just slightly awkward. Might even be a
Okay.
bit of cramp.
Yeah, the 15 minutes. Yes. Sorry, Ian.
Other end of the pitch, but a similar
Yeah, no, I totally get it. That's the call we
position
had, so that's-
for
All right, thanks.
France. It's Jalabert from the 10-metre line out on that left-hand side. Ross Byrne was successful from a similar position for Ireland. Can Jalabert increase France's lead as the clock ticked towards 80? Good strike, but it's hit the post, and Ringrose is alive to it, and Ireland have the ball, and it's Larmour who comes away with it, and it's still a 2-point game. And that is a significant moment, no doubt about that.
Potential for that to come back and bite the French. The Irish just got to make sure they put themselves in with the opportunity, earn themselves a penalty or one opportunity to run that ball in for a try.
Off an Irish leg, so France ball.
French ball.
Just need to get up the other
Time
end of
off.
the field, don't they,
Change,
the
number
Irish?
4.
They must feel like they're camped on their own try line at the moment.
Struck it well, but just faded into that left-hand post. Ireland going to make another change Ulsan Delan, who was already in as a blood replacement, is on as a permanent replacement now, and it's Tyg Byrne who makes way. Another big shift from that man.
Only the ball, not the player.
Here's Delan. Olivon back to full fitness, and he's the one that claims that when France go to the maul. It's a maul that's starting to get a bit of momentum. And Ireland can't afford to give away a penalty here. They know that. And Marchand breaks away. And a little pop pass off to Dupont that somehow he gets away from 1, 2, 3 Irish players. He's still going, Antoine Dupont. Then the little pop-up. Leroux on his shoulder. Villiers there as well. Dupont back. And Aldrit and France are about 8 metres short of the Irish line. Jalabert, Ficou, Vincent. Ringrose bounces off him, but it's still there for France.
No!
Dupont.
Jumping into the tackle, play on. Turnover.
Turnover, says the referee, and it's knocked forward then by an Irish hand.
Great competition, but it was knocked on by Ireland.
Knocked forward, French scrum.
Tom, there's nothing to check. The guy jumps
France at this point, Tom, will take that with the clock in their favour, the position and the possession.
Will. This is the one opportunity that Ireland to date have managed to keep very quiet in terms of Dupont. But look at his ability to just free his hands up and get that ball away. And there was the opportunity to turn the ball over, just knocked on.
Total stability, it's been good throughout. Complète stabilité, s'il vous plaît.
Will Connors, wasn't it? Knocked it on. Now this scrum position is so difficult to defend for the Irish. 20-metre blindside with the likes of Teddy Thomas and Dupont coming down there.
Interesting, Ross Byrne has taken a position supporting James Lowe up against Teddy Thomas on this near side.
Jameson Gibson Park, he'll take up Jalibert on the open side. He should have numbers.
Ireland have gone after France again in this scrum, but the French hold firm. Dupont gets caught in possession, so whatever was on is lost for the moment. Gibson Park needs to get out of there and not give away a penalty. The ball comes free. Who's got it? It's Irish ball. There's 5 minutes on the clock. There's 2 points separating the sides.
Relax.
It's got another chapter, this one.
Well, Will Connors, he might have knocked the ball on, but he went and made amends for it. Look at him get after Antoine Dupont here.
The ball is in your hands.
He's managed to get that ball onto the floor, and then it becomes a mess for the French. And again, he's one of the first ones to the breakdown. Talking about making an impact.
The clock will be stopped because France are now going to make those changes in the front row that it looked like they were going to make about 10 minutes ago. Bourgarit is going to come in for Marchand, and Cyril Bay makes way, which means Collingar will come in.
Crouch. Fine.
Four minutes left in the game. Can Ireland fashion one more chance? A penalty, a drop goal, anything will do. Gibson Park
Ireland,
at the back of a solid scrum again for Ireland. Lowe will use that big left boot again. Here's Dulin. Gibson Park underneath this one for Ireland, but it's going to be a competition with Teddy Thomas. Gibson Park does really well. Position should be there.
Just knocked Teddy Thomas slightly off balance, which meant he couldn't compete for the ball as well.
Ireland, use it!
Low underneath this one. Teddy Thomas comes from a long, long way back, and didn't he do really well for France? Secures possession, which is gold as we head towards 3 minutes left in the game at the Aviva Stadium.
France, use it.
Dupont, France will do everything they can to shut this one down.
Staying up in the air.
Gibson Park underneath it again. Well done, Gibson Park to James Lowe, and back to Gibson Park. Operating in the tightest of spaces, and Gibson Park just puts a big tone touch.
Incredible play from both of those players. Intricate skill out the back door. The ability to understand where your teammates are and execute the skills to keep that ball alive. Look at this, James Lowe. He knew that Jamison Gibson Park was back on his feet. And Bryce Dulac just has to clamp onto the player just to make sure that he's put his foot in touch.
18 is
France have possession. Bougarit finds his man, and France will go to the maul and try and suck the remaining life out of this game.
That's France! Line out over.
They'll happily stay there for as long as they're left by the referee, Luke Pearce. Dupont runs into a tackle. Ireland go after the ball, but they can't get it, and Ficou comes away with it. Then Ed Byrne goes in search of it, and France flood that breakdown. They just throw numbers into it.
Use it.
Minute and a half.
No.
They've got to hold out for another minute and a half. Penalty Ireland.
Just pushed him in the back. You've just pushed the guy straight in the back. No need.
Well, this is the opportunity. This ball, a bit like last week, needs to go as far upfield as possible and try and create the opportunity to win a penalty. Step up, Ross Byrne.
Safety of touch is the first requirement, and it's inside French territory. Similarities from last week are not lost on those watching for Ireland. Again, that was silly, really silly by Dylan Cretin on Tadhg Furlong. Ronan Kelleher, Ireland, first job, secure possession. Ian Henderson does just that. Here's Lowe and Byrne and Henshaw into Ficou, and Aldridge tries to rip the ball, but it's there for Ireland once more. Looked like France might have been offside in the back line, but referee happy to let it continue.
No, says
Henderson, it'll pop off to Will Connors. He's had an impact since he's come in.
He has. Now this is about patience for the Irish. Patience and accuracy. Keep hold of the ball. Encourage the French to just get too eager in and around the breakdown.
Cannot allow a man get isolated either. When the bodies are tired and aching and the minds are wandering, Ireland cannot afford to make the slightest of errors. Delan. France must make tackles and hope for a mistake. They daren't do anything that will draw a penalty from the referee. Ringrose inside the French 10-metre line. We're in the red. 10 phases for Ireland. Ross Byrne, it's too far away right now for a drop-it goal.
This is all about discipline. This is all about the French discipline. What have they got left in the tank? What has Sean Edwards done over the past couple of seasons to instill those values that they don't give a penalty away and they win this ball back?
Ruddock, one last ask of the body.
He's moving, don't bite.
Gibson Park, Ross Byrne, Tadhg Furlong, smashed on the gain line by two Frenchmen, but the ball's still there for Ireland. Ringrose puts the head down. Ireland haven't, just about to say it, gone backwards rather than forwards. Keenan tries to right that wrong.
He has the ball.
Who's got the ball? I think France have the ball. They've turned it over, and that will be that.
Onside 22.
They have the discipline. They have the know-how, and they have the game in Dublin. Dulac for the stands. France celebrates. They have the win. A hard-fought win built on the defence of Sean Edwards in the final 10 minutes. When the questions were asked, France's defence had the answers. It was a gallant display by Ireland. When they were down by 15 points to 3, they found a way back, but it wasn't enough. 2 losses for Ireland, 2 wins for France. The final score at the Aviva, Ireland 13, France 15. Well, you can see just what it means to the French players. They celebrated that. They know the significance of that away win in Dublin. It's been an away win that's evaded them for the guts of a decade. And they are, well, they've given it everything. And there is the Guinness Six Nations player of the match, Bryce Dulin. Significant contribution, and you can see just what it means to him and his team. And it's only round 2, and a big bear hug from the sizable frame of Antonio. And let's have a look at that last play as Ireland built and went through 14 phases. Keenan went in, and it's Dupont, of all players, Dupont, who wins the breakdown, who wins the turnover. And Rhys Ruddock's face tells you everything you need to know about the men in green's feelings. Well, it was a terrific end to what was a pretty stop-start second half. It had everything you would have wanted in terms of drama. Sure, there weren't the free-flowing tries that we saw in Edinburgh yesterday between Scotland and Wales, but it was an absorbing contest. Somehow Ireland found their way back, and well, they were in the same position that they were in Cardiff last week. An opportunity at the death, but they just couldn't convert it. In truth, it was a big ask to try and convert from inside their own 22, albeit with the help of a penalty. And Ficou and France march on. They go to, well, they're at home to Scotland next. Then they head off to England. That'll be a big game. And then Wales at home in the final weekend for Ireland. Well, it's unthinkable from Andy Farrell's perspective that they languish towards the bottom end of the table now. 2 losing points is all they have. 2 losing bonus points, all they have to show for their endeavours for the first 2 weekends. And it's the first time that Paul O'Connell and this Irish team have lost the first 2 games in the Six Nations Championship. Since it became the Six Nations Championship, they've lost the first 2 games. And it is a, well, long way back now. We always hear about the word momentum, and losing momentum is not what you need after 2 weeks as they head into the gap week. Ireland have Italy away next, then Scotland at home, and they finish at home to England, I should say Scotland away. So it's 2 on the road now for Andy Farrell's men. Conor Murray, Johnny Sexton, James Ryan will undoubtedly all come back into the thought process of the Irish team. Fabien Galthié, he knows that his team had to dig deep, and they did dig deep to find a way to get that done. And a French team, well, even as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, you think wouldn't have been able to see out that position, and that is a testament to where they are now. And there are some big tests ahead, but right now it is they and Wales who will head off to round 3 with an unbeaten record. And they are the ones, of course, who meet on that final weekend. Bryce Dulin, the Guinness player of the match. I can see him down underneath me, getting ready to speak to us as Paul O'Connell and Gail Ficou exchange pleasantries.